that definitely we there are some good elements that we cannot draw from the period of colonization, the consequences of which continue to inform, African political affairs, and very definitely the ways in which they interact in the global arena. Foreign and diplomacy is nothing else than, what the tools that all the countries in the world, will have to use to assert their national interest, seek for those national interests, and then achieve them in the international arena. So very definitely, Clarice, and I want to give two or three examples to show the link and how Africa's, diplomatic rules of the present time are embedded in the period of colonization. When you look at the schools, for instance, how many of those African countries today actually do have schools of diplomacy that are actually very rooted in terms of teaching, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of quote unquote ideology orientation in the wellness and well-being of the people for whom, the people of those countries, for instance. Second thing, we know that, many of our diplomats from the time of the 1960s, at the time when the African countries, the majority of them were gaining independence, many of them, were trained abroad and then continue to be trained abroad. Many of them continue to be in these international institutions, but when they go in there, as a result of the connections or the funding being received also from other and then big countries. Clarissa, you understand that in addition to the technical skills that what these students may learn, or these trained diplomats may acquire from those schools or institutions abroad, they are also being ingrained with a dose of ideology, and it is clear in what we have seen during the period of the Cold War and what we continue to see. When I got onto this show today, later I heard one of the panelists talking about the connection with the what we call the francophone, and even at the diplomatic level, as long as we continue to see this divide. The second example I want to give you is what we saw in 2012 for the chairmanship of the African Union. We know that our mother and sister from South Africa, Dlamini Zuma, won before the former Prime Minister of Gabon, Jean Ping. But at that time, when the two of them were campaigning, we saw to Africa. Talking about, a francophone Africa against an anglophone Africa. This language itself at the diplomatic level is, I will say, very divisive, and it is a language that also sprung out of the period of colonization. That's the second example I want to take. And of course, we're resting on the third example. We have seen and we continue to see how countries such as France can take the lead at the United Nations within the Security Council when it comes to drafting, proposing resolutions for the resolution of conflicts in certain countries. We saw that, blatantly in 2011 in the case of Cote d'Ivoire, when the Security Council resolution was actually instrumentalized by France, which again, were led to the intervention of the French troops in this country. This kind of diplomatic efforts definitely contributed to stalling whatever diplomacy came out of Africa in terms of conflict resolution and in terms of any other project of development. Recently, we also saw another example of how the ECOWAS position with regard to the countries of the Sahel was clearly dictated by the European Union and the French government. So, is all that and all those examples of the residual of I say left out or hangovers of colonization? My answer to that question definitely is yes. And Clarissa, I want to yell on that.